Hello guys, welcome back to our anime moment. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Renegade Immortal episode number 218 based on novel. So let's start. Li Yuan's voice was filled with piercing hatred. If this hatred could become corporeal, it would immediately erupt to vent the anger he had suffered in the recent days. Wang Lin nodded and his gaze went over the illusory yin old man and landed on the dumbfounded woman. She was holding Li Yuan's celestial swords. He didn't even waste time talking to them and took a step. This step moved him over several hundred feet and he appeared before the woman. The woman had just recovered from the shock. She personally saw the Yao youth's body collapse from just one finger from this person. The cracking sounds from the Yao youth's body still echoed in her ears. With one finger, he had caused his origin soul to collapse. The Yao youth's origin soul was captured and had its consciousness wiped away until it was only a blob of origin energy. This scene completely destroyed her mind, making her cower in terror. When she saw Wang Lin moving toward her, she immediately panicked. Filled with terror, she let out a hysterical scream. In her eyes, Wang Lin was no longer a person, but a demon, a terrifying, soul-devouring demon. She almost subconsciously retreated. There wasn't even the slightest thought of resisting. The only thing in her brain was escape, escape, escape. Ever since she was little, she had never been this terrified. Not only did it destroy her mind, it also left a deep rift in her Tao heart. Even if she was lucky enough to escape, her cultivation level would drop greatly with almost no chance of increasing again. Wang Lin's expression was cold and his gaze was chilling as he closed in. In his eyes, the woman's speed was too slow. At this moment, the illusory yin old man's eyes lit up. He didn't try to save her, he quickly retreated. As one finger pressed down between her eyebrows, her pupils shrank and her fear reached its peak. Origin energy rushed into her body. She wasn't thrown back and instead trembled and was frozen in place. Popping sounds came from inside her body. She was very familiar with this sound. It was exactly the same as the ones that came from the youth's body earlier. Her origin soul formed a ball of light and flew out from between her eyebrows. Wang Lin grabbed it with his right hand and threw it at Li Yuan. The origin energy nourished his origin soul and caused his injuries to recover slightly. The woman's body collapsed and disappeared completely. Until the moment she died, she still didn't understand why the person that they were chasing didn't inform them that he had a friend like this in the Thunder Celestial Realm. As her body dissipated, all of the flying swords and bags of holding fell down on the ground. Wang Lin raised his head and looked at the figure of the rapidly escaping old man before revealing a sneer. He took a step forward and suddenly disappeared as he fused with the world. The illusory yin old man's mind was completely shaken by the sudden appearance of Wang Lin. He didn't have any chance at victory, so he quickly fled. However, at this moment, a ripple appeared before him. Powerful origin energy came out from inside and caused him to stop. Wang Lin's figure walked out from inside. "You next." Wang Lin's eyes became cold. The moment he appeared, he raised his right hand and a bolt of purple thunder appeared. The surrounded area was surrounded by purple mist after the purple thunderbolt appeared. Lightning moved through the mist and quickly gathered on the bolt of purple thunder. The bolt of thunder was as thick as an arm and quickly shot toward the old man. The old man's expression changed greatly as he quickly retreated. His hand quickly formed seals and immediately released a red flame. This flame was extremely hot and quickly spread around him, forming a flame shield. The bolt of thunder descended and landed on the flame shield. There were crackling sounds as the flame shield immediately collapsed and the bolt of thunder landed on the old man's body. He coughed out a large mouth of blood and his face turned pale. As he quickly retreated, he was almost out of his wit. His scalp tingled as he felt panic set in and the aghast in his heart was reaching its limit. The old man retreated and quickly said, "Senior, let me speak." Wang Lin's expression was cold as he moved forward and coldly said, "How long did you chase after my friend? Speak." The old man retreated and quickly said, 13 days. "Senior, this matter was all because of the young master from the Yao family. I tried to persuade him, but our statuses are different, so I was unable to stop him. The old man was extremely terrified of this person. A corporeal young cultivator was not someone he could resist, even though he was only one step away from the corporeal young stage himself. 13 days, Wang Lin's eyes filled with killing intent, and in the blink of an eye, he overtook the old man. His 2 fingers formed a sword and pointed at the old man's left arm. The old man's expression changed. Just as he was about to dodge, Wang Lin said one word. "Stop." This word was like the voice of the devil as it landed in the old man's ears. He immediately felt an unimaginable amount of origin energy surround him. At this instant, he couldn't move his body an inch. Even his origin soul felt like it was in water and became cloud. This is the first day. Wang Lin's finger landed on the old man's left arm, and with a burst of origin energy, the old man's left arm exploded with a bang. The powerful origin energy exploded once more, causing the arm to shatter completely. The old man revealed a struggling expression. He wanted to struggle, but he couldn't even move his body an inch. The second day. Wang Lin's finger landed once more, this time on the old man's left leg. The origin energy rushed in and more than half of the old man's left leg was blown off. The old man's veins bulged and he revealed a ferocious gaze. However, behind that ferocious gaze, he was filled with fear. His terror of Wang Lin had filled his mind. This is the third day. Wang Lin lifted his foot and directly stepped on the old man's right leg. The leg immediately collapsed with a bang. Of the old man's 4 limbs, 3 of them had already collapsed. The old man let out a miserable groan. The severe pain almost drowned him. The simulation of the pain allowed his origin soul to move a bit. Origin energy immediately cycled through his body and he showed signs of recovering. As Wang Lin withdrew his foot, his finger pointed at the old man's right arm. Origin energy rushed in and the only surviving limb immediately disintegrated. This is the 4th day. This didn't end. The stop spell was dissipating and the old man was about to regain his movement. Just as origin energy filled his body and he was about to retreat, Wang Lin's cold voice came once more. "Stop!" The old man let out a sad cry. The other party's voice was the sound that would end his life faster and make him fall into the abyss. If he knew it would have turned out like this, he wouldn't have touched a hair on Li Yuan's head. At his moment, his mind was in a trance and he vaguely recalled the words that this person said the moment he appeared. "Who gave you the qualification to hurt my friend?" These words echoed in his mind like rumbling thunder. After the old man's body was stopped for the second time, Wang Lin stood in front of the old man. Wang Lin's finger quickly moved and pointed at the old man's body, causing blood to come out from the corner of the old man's mouth. The 5th day. The 6th day. The 7th day. At the end, the old man's chest was a bloody mess. All of his bones were broken and blood mist gushed out of his chest. His body had lost all vitality. This is the last day. Wang Lin's hand turned into a palm and pressed down on the old man's forehead with a ruthless expression. A crisp crackling resounded as the old man's body completely collapsed and dissipated into a blood mist. His origin soul charged out. As he trembled in the air, he shouted, "The Yao family won't let you off." Wang Lin's eyes were cold and he had a thought. He slapped his bag of holding and the 1 billion soul flag appeared. With a shake, the flag opened up, revealing the blood ancestor's unwilling image. Wang Lin calmly asked, "Do you recognize him?" The old man's origin soul was startled. After taking a careful look, his eyes immediately bulged and revealed horror. Although he didn't recognize who it was, this person was 70% similar to the Yao family ancestor. Without waiting for the old man to speak, Wang Lin already knew the answer from the old man's expression. He stepped forth as his origin energy surrounded the area and immediately locked the old man's origin soul. His hand reached out. The old man's origin soul couldn't escape at all and was immediately pulled back. Wang Lin's eyes became cold and he used the soul search spell on the old man. The powerful origin energy made it impossible for the old man to struggle. A moment later, Wang Lin's eyes revealed a strange light as he wiped the old man's consciousness from the origin soul, turning it into a ball of origin energy. Wang Lin's body landed next to Li Yuan. He held the ball of origin energy and pressed it between Li Yuan's eyebrows. "Brother Li, I'll give you an opportunity. Whether you can reach the illusory yin stage or not will depend on you." Wang Lin's eyes lit up and he pressed his hand against Li Yuan's chest. "Gather." With a roar, the small, white insects were immediately pulled out of Li Yuan's body. These insects were hideous and gave off a fishy smell. Wang Lin's expression was calm. With one pinch, all of these small insects collapsed one by one. Li Yuan had already reached the peak of the late stage of Ascendant. The reason he hadn't reached the illusory yin stage yet was because his body lacked origin energy. Wang Lin had just nourished him with 3 origin souls. In particular, one was the origin soul of an illusory yin cultivator which was filled with origin energy. Thanks to this, the chance of Li Yuan making a breakthrough had increased greatly. After placing some restrictions around Li Yuan, Wang Lin sat beside him and began to ponder. The blood ancestor is indeed someone from the Yao family. It turns out the Yao family is very powerful, especially the Yao family's blood god. Wang Lin's eyes became cold. I haven't been lacking powerful enemies ever since I started cultivating, so adding a blood god isn't much. Wang Lin knew that even if he had known about the blood god beforehand, he simply couldn't just leave Li Yuan to die. Moreover, since he had already offended the blood ancestor, he made a decision. As long as I master that spell to merge with the world, even if Tuo Sen comes, I will be able to escape. However, some of the memories inside that old man are interesting, they might be useful to me. Wang Lin's eyes revealed a decisive gaze. He sat down and began refining the origin energy inside his body. When I absorb all the origin energy in my body, I will be extremely close to the real second step, the early stage of Nirvana Scrya. Wang Lin silently pondered for a moment before waving his hand. The 3 bags and several flying swords flew to him. These 3 bags of holding belonged to those 3. Wang Lin's eyes first fell on the swords that he and Li Yuan had found inside the storage space. After scanning them with his divine sense, Wang Lin's thoughts stirred. These 9 swords immediately flew into the air and stabbed into the ground. 8 of them formed a circle, while the last one was in the middle. Wang Lin slapped his bag of holding and the 9 beast bones immediately flew out. The largest beast bone landed at the center of the circle, while remaining 8 surrounded the 8 swords forming the circle. They were arranged exactly how Wang Lin had found them. He carefully looked at the 9 beast bones. Wang Lin had checked them before, and there seemed to be some sort of branding that prevented his divine sense from imprinting and controlling them. Back then, he suspected that this beast bone treasure might require some special way of activation. After he placed the beast bones back with the swords, he immediately noticed the difference. After pondering for a bit, Wang Lin's divine sense spread out and went into the 8 small beast bones. The moment his divine sense touched them, the 8 bones immediately shook and a suction force came from them. Wang Lin's divine sense immediately felt this suction. His eyes lit up and his origin energy went into his divine sense. Following the suction, his divine sense split into 8 parts and went into the 8 bones. That suction seemed to have no end and continued to suck at his divine sense as if it wanted to devour his entire origin soul. After pondering for a bit, Wang Lin pulled back his divine sense from the beast bones. Then his hands formed seals and he laid countless seals in the surroundings. Then his origin energy spread out and surrounded everything within 10,000 feet of him. A white mist filled with his origin energy appeared. If an outsider passed by and saw this mist, they wouldn't do anything reckless, because this mist was filled with pressure from origin energy. Even illusory yin and corporeal yang cultivators would be extremely cautious. This meant that there was a second step cultivator inside this mist that didn't want to be disturbed. If someone attempted to enter, they would be attacked by the origin energy inside the mist. After forming the origin energy mist, Wang Lin pondered for a bit before he opened his mouth and allowed the fragment stamp into the mist. Only then did he feel relaxed and sat down. His ancient thunder dragon origin soul charged out and rushed toward the 8 beast bones. The moment his origin soul closed in, suction force came out from the 8 beast bones. Wang Lin's origin soul split into 8 parts again and entered each beast bone. After absorbing all of Wang Lin's origin soul, the 8 beast bones released a demonic glow. The demonic light became more and more bright until 8 rays of blue light shot out from the beast bones toward the sword in the middle. This blue light also contained his origin soul. His origin soul underwent a change he didn't understand and was sent into the flying sword. The sword trembled and released a burst of sword hymns. Wang Lin's origin soul fused back into one and immediately felt powerful sword energy charging toward his origin soul. Wang Lin's eyes narrowed and the origin energy inside his body spread out like a storm, dissipating all the sword energy. However, the next moment, more sword energy appeared as if it would never end. Something is wrong. This is a restriction matrix. Wang Lin's eyes began to deduce the restriction and he simply sat down. He created an origin energy shield to block the sword energy and completely ignored it. After an unknown amount of time, Wang Lin's eyes lit up. He had seen through this restriction. With a thought, countless restrictions appeared around him and spread out in all directions. At this moment, the sword surrounded by the 8 beast bones flew out. It flew above the beast bones surrounded by the 8 swords. The sword pointed down and sword energy immediately shot out. This sword energy divided into 8 rays of sword energy which went into each of the 8 flying swords. Wang Lin's origin soul was once more divided into 8 and entered the 8 celestial swords. The experience from before appeared once more, but this time there was even more sword energy. Wang Lin's origin soul was divided into 8, and every single piece experienced the same thing. 3 days later, all 8 swords shot out sword energy toward the largest beast bone in the center. Wang Lin's origin soul came out with the sword energy and entered the beast bone with 4 spikes. His origin soul fused into one inside the beast bone and at the same time left his imprint inside the beast bone. A kind of enlightenment appeared inside Wang Lin's soul. He had incomparable understanding of this beast bone, as if it was part of his body. After a long time, Wang Lin's origin soul flew out from the beast bone and back into his body. Wang Lin opened his eyes and revealed a look of shock and excitement. It is indeed worthy of being a celestial treasure. Without this specific method, there is no way to leave your imprint on it. Once you successfully leave your imprint, you immediately gain the knowledge to use it. Wang Lin stood up, waved his hand, and the large beast bone immediately flew toward him. This object is called the Withered Dao Pear. It is extremely powerful and can be considered a true magical treasure. Unfortunately, it was damaged in the hands of its previous master in a battle against an ancient god. Adding on the fact that the previous master died, even now it still hasn't been fully repaired. However, its power is still amazing, and it can be considered one of my most powerful treasures. Wang Lin's right hand reached out and the beast bone seemed to gain life. It rushed toward Wang Lin and disappeared in his hand. A moment later, a beast bone tattoo appeared on the back of Wang Lin's right hand. It was very lifelike. He didn't withdraw the origin mist and looked at Li Yuan. Most of Li Yuan's injuries had healed and his origin soul was absorbing the origin energy to make the final breakthrough. Wang Lin wasn't sure if Li Yuan would succeed or not. While waiting for Li Yuan to awaken, Wang Lin opened the bags of the 3 people he killed. The woman's bag had some stuff inside, but nothing that caught Wang Lin's attention. After taking out the celestial jades, Wang Lin put it aside. As for young Master Yao's bag of holding, there was some stuff inside as well. After looking through it, Wang Lin's eyes narrowed and landed on one item. It was a paper talisman. Compared to this, the other things meant nothing. This was the second talisman like his he had found since coming to the All-Heaven Star system. After pondering for a while, Wang Lin slapped his bag of holding and the other talisman appeared in his hand. The 2 talismans were similar in size, but the symbols drawn on them were different. What exactly is this? Wang Lin's divine sense spread out and scanned the 2 talismans. His eyes narrowed as he noticed faint origin energy fluctuations coming from them. He wouldn't have been able to notice it with his previous cultivation level. Interesting. Could this item be a treasure as well? Wang Lin silently pondered for a moment before putting the talismans away. He had a feeling they weren't ordinary. When he picked up the last bag of holding, his eyes lit up and he muttered. The old man's mind was messy, but his objective in the Thunder Celestial Realm was very clear. He was going to take the young master of the Yao family to the collection pavilion to get a celestial spell. Wang Lin learned from the old man's memories that there was a fragment that was sealed by the combined forces of the four families of the All-Heaven Star system with inheritances from the celestial realm. On this sealed fragment there was a collection pavilion. The pavilion stored celestial spells, and they were still well preserved. However, this collection pavilion was created by the previous Thunder Celestial Realm Celestial Emperor and his subordinates. The pavilion had its own rules, and whether one could get a celestial spell depended on luck. The four great families with celestial realm inheritances couldn't break these rules. They could only seal the fragment and then open it each time to let their family members try their luck. For a very long time, this collection pavilion has been a place exclusive to the four great families, and no outsiders were allowed. The Yao family hadn't only sent one team to the Thunder Celestial Realm, but 10 groups. Collection pavilion. Wang Lin's eyes lit up. Just at this moment, Li Yuan's breathing became rough and he slowly opened his eyes. He looked ahead and sighed. Thank you, Brother Shu, but it looks like I'm not fated to reach the illusory yin stage. My origin soul couldn't withstand that much origin energy. Li Yuan lowered his head and looked at his broken arm. After he said that, he became silent. Wang Lin raised his right hand and all the origin mist withdrew. He carefully looked at Li Yuan and smiled. Brother Li, you shouldn't underestimate yourself. The origin energy inside your body is nourishing your origin soul. Once you absorb all that origin energy, you will reach the illusory yin stage. That day may come fast or slow, but it will certainly happen. Li Yuan's eyes glowed and he nodded. He stood up and bowed toward Wang Lin. Brother Shu, I owe you a lot. I will remember this in my heart and won't forget it. Li Yuan wasn't one to speak much, but this came from his heart. He only felt gratitude toward Wang Lin. Wang Lin faintly smiled as his right hand grabbed the only bag he hadn't searched. He scanned it with his divine sense and threw it at Li Yuan. At the same time, the 9 swords flew into the air and landed next to Li Yuan, returning them to their owner. Also, keep that bag of holding. I believe the things inside will be useful to you. Li Yuan nodded and put away the swords. He picked up the bag and scanned it with his divine sense before he took something out. It was the ancient mirror. This is a restriction-breaking ancient mirror. There aren't many of these left, and they can break a majority of restrictions. As he spoke, he threw it toward Wang Lin. Wang Lin accepted it with a smile and put it inside his bag of holding. Li Yuan hesitated and asked, I can't see through Brother Shu's cultivation anymore. It is obvious you improved greatly compared to before. Was the blood ancestor destroyed by the storage space? The danger of the blood ancestor has been resolved. Although he isn't dead, there isn't much difference. Wang Lin said it calmly, but when Li Yuan heard this, he was startled and meaningfully looked at Wang Lin. With his wisdom, he could tell from Wang Lin's words that Wang Lin's rapid increase in cultivation level had something to do with the blood ancestor. Wang Lin looked at Li Yuan and smiled. Brother Li, I'm going to search the Thunder Celestial Realm and search for all the celestial spells. Are you willing to help me break restrictions? With his current power, aside from a few select individuals, not many in the Thunder Celestial Realm were his match. If Li Yuan was around, Wang Lin could easily protect Li Yuan. Not to mention if Li Yuan had enough time to use his restrictions, he wouldn't even need Wang Lin's protection. Wang Lin had his own plans for inviting Li Yuan. Li Yuan obviously knew a lot more about the Thunder Celestial Realm than him. Also, Wang Lin couldn't compare to Li Yuan in terms of restrictions, so it would be a lot easier to search for celestial spells with Li Yuan. Li Yuan's eyes revealed joy as he smiled and said, since this is Brother Shu's wish, I'll do my best to help you. As long as I have enough time, I'm certain I can break all restrictions here. For example, Brother Shu, there once was a celestial ruin here. Li Yuan pointed ahead at a plain. The ground was filled with weeds and dead grass, and the wind blowing across the plain created rustling sounds. No matter how one looked at it, it was extremely ordinary. Li Yuan's single arm formed seals. His body was now filled with origin energy, so some restrictions that he couldn't use before due to the suppression of the slave imprint could be used now. The sky darkened and the plane before them looked like a painting with its cover taken off. When Li Yuan's restrictions fell, the plane shattered, exposing the ruins of a city. A broken, stone tablet stood before the ruins, and there were 3 ancient words on it. Celestial Welcoming Palace. Celestial spells can't be used with just the formula. By using my Li family's annihilation restriction heart, I can use traces of celestial spells to reverse engineer them. This method injures the user's body, so my Li family doesn't casually use it. However, if Bothershoe needs help, then I'll definitely help. Wang Lin's expression was neutral as he looked at the broken tablet. He jumped forward and arrived before the tablet. Li Yuan followed closely after and carefully looked at tablet before looking at the ruins. He then smiled. Brother Shu, if I'm not wrong, this celestial welcoming palace was once a trade spot for celestials. Wang Lin nodded and calmly walked toward the ruins. Along the way, he could see many wreckages of various buildings. This palace was very big, it was almost the size of a mortal city. The ruins were extremely quiet, with only the occasional wind that would blow through the broken buildings. The sound created by the wind sounded like someone was sobbing. Small vortexes would form when the wind blew by, gently blowing away the dust. It could be seen from the wreckage that there were many pavilions along the road, but right now they were heavily damaged. There were even remnants of restriction fluctuations coming from them. After carefully searching the ruins, Wang Lin found nothing surprising. It was clear that people had already been here during the countless times the Thunder Celestial Realm had been open. The largest shop in these trade palaces are always to the east. Li Yuan's eyes lit up and looked east. The wreckage on the east side of the palace was even more severe. It was impossible to see the appearance of a shop anymore, as there was only one wall left. Li Yuan walked very fast and quickly arrived next to the ruined building in the east. He squatted down, picked up some of the rubble, and carefully examined it as if he was calculating. When Wang Lin calmly arrived, his divine sense spread out and found nothing. Shortly after, Li Yuan's eyes narrowed. Then he pointed at a spot and said, "Brother Shu, attack this spot with spell." Wang Lin didn't waste time. He raised his hand and purple thunder shot out like a wild dragon toward the spot Li Yuan pointed at. The purple thunder landed with a bang and the earth trembled, causing the rubble to move. A pattern without any fluctuations appeared on the ground. This seemed to be a formation that was carved into the ground. Wang Lin's eyes revealed a strange light. Li Yuan took a few steps forward and arrived next to the formation. After looking at it, he smiled. Brother Shu, as far as I know, even the shops of Celestials had hidden rooms. It seems this shop was not an exception. Wang Lin nodded and said, "I believe the formation that manages this hidden room has been active for so long that all of the celestial spiritual energy has disappeared. This is why there were no fluctuations coming from it at all." Li Yuan squatted down and wiped away a large amount of dust. After calculating a bit, he nodded. "That's correct. From the looks of this dust, it seems like no one has come here for a long time. It is as Brother Shu said, this formation has lost all of its celestial spiritual energy and became a dead formation." He then explained, "A dead formation is like this, once the celestial spiritual energy is lost, it can't be opened anymore. However, I have a way of restoring it. Brother Shu, I need some time, so please wait a moment." With that, Li Yuan knelt down, bit his left finger, took a deep breath, and pressed his finger against the formation. Origin energy came from his left hand. Blood also came out from the wound and entered the formation before it slowly spread. Wang Lin calmly stood on the side and felt melancholy in his heart as he looked at the wreckage. The Thunder Celestial Realm must have been very prosperous, otherwise, it would have been impossible to form a trade shop of this size. There were many shops inside this palace. Standing here, Wang Lin could imagine that countless years ago, Celestials arrived on celestial treasures and celestial beasts and traded for their respective needs here like mortals. The Celestials from back then could have never imagined the celestial realm would collapse. While silently pondering, Wang Lin let out a sigh. He remembered the huge handprint he saw in the Rain Celestial realm. That handprint spell that could shatter the earth. Unfortunately, Li Yuan is unable to go to the Rain Celestial realm. I wonder if he is able to reverse engineer that celestial spell. As time slowly passed, Li Yuan's face gradually became paler. The blood from his left finger gradually spread across the formation. The formation was injected with energy and then a subtle ripple appeared. Li Yuan's eyes lit up, then he pointed to the spot between his eyebrows and a black line came out and landed on the formation. His hands quickly moved and were about to continue releasing restrictions. However, just at the moment the black line touched the formation, a beam of light shot into the sky. The beam appeared almost instantaneously and could be clearly seen from far away. Li Yuan was startled. Before he sent out the restrictions in his hand, they dissipated. How could this be? This is the first time the celestial formation was opened. It's the first opening. As Li Yuan stared at the beam of light, his eyes became brighter and brighter. Wang Lin turned slightly as he glanced at the beam of light. It appeared too abruptly without any warning, so there was no time to stop it. From Li Yuan's expression, it seemed like he was surprised as well. Wang Lin calmly said, "Brother Li." Li Yuan took a deep breath. The beam of light dimmed and was going to disappear soon. Wang Lin's divine sense spread out and he immediately noticed something. Suppressed celestial spiritual energy seemed to have burst out from the beam of light. Li Yuan stared at the fading beam and said, if the celestial formation was opened properly, this wouldn't have happened. However, this is the first time it has been opened, and the spirit of the formation needs to be released before it can be opened. The first time? Wang Lin's eyes narrowed. That is correct. This should be the first time this formation has been opened without the proper method. Once this beam is gone, we can go in and see what's inside. Li Yuan stared at the formation and licked his lips. Wang Lin nodded and his expression suddenly changed as he looked into the distance. He saw two rays of sword light coming from the distance and they gave off powerful celestial spiritual energy fluctuations. They had obviously seen the beam of light and wanted to see what had happened. Wang Lin withdrew his gaze and his right hand reached toward the ground. Large amounts of bricks flew up and then exploded into dust. Then Wang Lin scattered the dust in all directions. In almost an instant, the dust formed a ring with a radius of 10,000 feet. It isolated the area within from the outside. Wang Lin's eyes landed on the fading light beam and he calmly said, "Those who enter will die." Although his voice was soft, when it fell in those two's ears, it was like roaring thunder. Those two were at the mid-stage of ascendant, so their minds were shaken from the voice, even the sword lights under their feet became unstable. The two of them stopped outside the ring and didn't dare to take half a step inside. The two of them looked at each with pale expressions before quickly putting away their swords. One of them respectfully said, "The two of us are juniors from the Zhao family of the Western Domain. We will obey senior's command and won't take a step inside." The beam began to dissipate faster and faster. Li Yuan's eyes lit up as he stepped forward and came closer to the formation, waiting for the beam to completely dissipate. Even the two cultivators outside widened their eyes and looked carefully. They had never seen such a scene, but after pondering a bit, they guessed that a treasure had appeared here. Although they didn't dare to go steal it, they couldn't let go of this opportunity to broaden their horizons. It was because the discharge from spirit of the formation was too great that all the cultivators on this fragment saw it. The moment every cultivator saw this light, the first thought they had was that a treasure had appeared. Almost all of the cultivators gathered toward this beam of light with that in mind. Those two from the Zhao family were already close, so they were the first to arrive. Shortly after, several rays of light came from all directions. They all had varying cultivation levels, but none of them were at the illusory yin stage. Most of them were at the peak of the late stage of ascendant. When these people arrived, they immediately saw the ring made of dust. They stopped and didn't dare to move in closer. However, their gazes immediately fell on the dissipating beam of light and their eyes revealed greed. However, When they saw Wang Lin, their expressions immediately changed. They could feel origin energy from Wang Lin's body, causing them all to retreat. None of them dared to come within 10,000 feet. Wang Lin didn't pay those people any attention, even Li Yuan didn't pay too much attention. A moment later, the beam of light disappeared. At the moment the beam of light disappeared, a dark hole appeared on the surface of the formation. Waves of celestial spiritual energy came out from inside. Even the people 10,000 feet away could clearly feel it. Rays of greedy gazes instantly gathered on the dark hole. A subtle aura immediately appeared from all the cultivators 10,000 feet away. If Wang Lin wasn't there, they would have immediately rushed in. The temptation from that dark hole was very great for cultivators. All of this was because of the unknown. No one knew what was inside, but because of this, that subtle feeling became even stronger. Just at this instant, a ray of sword energy carrying origin energy came from the horizon. It headed straight toward the light as if that ring didn't exist. The eyes of the cultivators 10,000 feet away all revealed a mysterious light. The origin energy from that sword energy meant that another cultivator at the second step had arrived. As the origin energy spread, a yellow figure quickly closed in while standing on a ray of sword energy. This video will end here.